Coming up, a Pascagoula man is trying to get the city to stop flooding along Bayou Casat. And a staple of Ocean Springs dining will soon close its doors. We'll tell you why. Good evening. Thanks for joining us. I'm Christina Garcia. We'll have more on those stories in a moment. But first tonight, 2 suspects in an overnight shooting that claimed a young woman's life remain at large tonight. That according to Gulfport Police. That's our top story. Authorities say 18-year-old Carol Bolton was shot at a party at the O'Neill Road Apartments last night. She was rushed to the hospital but died from her injuries shortly before midnight. Now police are looking for 2 suspects that fled the scene before officers arrived. They are asking anyone with information about the overnight shooting to contact investigators immediately. From a sunken boat to downed trees, a Pascagoula resident says the west prong of Bayou Casat is filled with all kinds of debris, and he believes that could be causing flooding in his neighborhood. Patrice Clark talked with Pascagoula leaders to find out what can be done to clean this up.
Like you see the boats sunk here, debris on the banks, and the trees are down, water's flowing down through it, bringing debris and silt down from upstream.
Fred Waters claims the west prong of Bayou Casat is clogged with mess. And when it rains, he says there's a drainage backup that causes nearby streets to flood.
The first part of this year, had a really unusual downpour. It really didn't take long to fill this pond up and flood our neighbors downstream.
What about you? Did you get any water?
I didn't get any water, but it came right up to the edge of the road.
Waters decided to start a petition in his neighborhood after the last flood. He says he took more than 80 signatures to Pascagoula and county officials to get the bayou cleaned out regularly. But still nothing has been done.
We can't wave a magic wand and make the problem better, but we can take some logical, engineering-based steps to try to make a difference.
Pascagoula city manager and mayor say back in July, the city and county teamed up with the Corps of Engineers to investigate the drainage problems and hopefully stop the frequent flooding. But they say the process will take some time. And as far as the debris piling up near the bayou,
there are a few immediate things. If there's been some illegal dumping, I understand Mr. Waters said there were some tires thrown in the area. We can either take care of those ourselves or alert the proper person, the proper entity, so they can send somebody out there.
Waters says whatever can be done, he hopes it's done soon.
What I'm asking to do is what they should have been addressing all along.
In Pascagoula, Patrice Clark, WLOX News.
Waters says he also plans to go before the Board of Supervisors tomorrow to find out what they can do to help fix the flooding problem. Turning to weather, the tropics seem to be heating up. Let's go to meteorologist Joel Young for the latest.
Yeah, you're right about that. The past couple of days, we've been watching this wave just off the coast of Africa. It's actually been moving off the west coast of Africa. And over the past couple of days, it's rapidly intensified, and it really has in a matter of time, it really has been pretty impressive at how quick it has intensified. Right now, it is Tropical Depression 9, and it does look like it will intensify from there. However, it does look like it might curve out to sea. I'll have details on that here in just a few moments. Here in South Mississippi, we've seen clear skies pretty much all day. We did have one pop-up shower in southern Pearl River County, but notice what happened. It just fizzled out as quickly as it formed, and it pushed over into southeast Louisiana, then just dissipated from there. So it looks like tonight we'll see mostly clear skies. It will be quiet. Notice these winds will stay calm, and as we go into the day tomorrow, it looks like those winds will pick up out of the southeast about 4 to 8 miles per hour. Notice temperatures will get down to the lower 70s, so a little bit cooler thanks to the clear skies, and then of course warm and humid for the day tomorrow. So another a sunny day on tap, but it does look like those rain chances will increase in the 7-day forecast. And again, I'll have an update on the tropics here in a few moments.
Thank you, Joel. For folks who like to walk and ride their bikes in Ocean Springs, a new pathway will soon be added to your commute. Jackson County Supervisor John McKay says the county has been awarded a $480,000 grant to build a sidewalk and bicycle trail. The trail will start at Ocean Springs High, continue to the middle school on Old Spanish Trail. McKay says he applied for the grant 2 months ago, and the pathway will be a great addition to the community.
You know, everybody's getting more health conscious, and everybody's now starting to looking at better ways of transportation. And bicycling is one of those that a lot of people participate in. So it will be much safer than people riding down Old Spanish Trail the way it is now. So it's going to be a lot safer also.
McKay says funding is part of the Gulf Regional Planning Grant, and the county can also use it to repave Old Spanish Trail. It's one of the oldest restaurants on the coast, owned by an 82-year-old woman. It's called Jocelyn's, owned and run by Jocelyn Mayfield, and she's decided it's time to start thinking about closing her doors. Hannah Mosley joins us in the studio with more.
It's a small family-run restaurant on Highway 90 in Ocean Springs. Many consider it a staple on the coast. It's been open for almost 31 years, and it even survived Hurricane Katrina. I sat down with Jocelyn to find out where it all began and why it's time to say goodbye.
I have been cooking since I was 8 years old. I was the oldest of 8 children, and my mom was pretty sickly during those times. So somebody had to feed them. So I learned how to cook. I stood on an apple box and I cooked.
74 years later, she's still at it.
I love it. I love to cook.
And inside this bright pink building, on Friday and Saturday nights only, that love shows.
There's just no better place to get seafood.
Joseph Smith has been coming to Jocelyn's with his wife Maryland almost every week for 27 years. The food, especially the crab meat, is what drew him in, but the experience is what keeps him coming back.
Love her to death. Just love her to death.
And at a neighboring table, Barbara Lansdale couldn't agree more.
She has a special place in my heart.
I thought it was the food, but my customers tell me it's me. They said because I visit each table. I think everybody can tell you they know my life, because if they ask me, I tell them about it.
Perhaps it's that close customer relationship that made the decision to close so tough.
They mean a lot to me, and I'm going to miss them.
But Jocelyn says it's time.
I'm getting older, and I've never had a life outside of this restaurant. And one day I'm going to write a book and let people know what it's like to raise a family of 6, educate them, and try to run a restaurant.
She started to think about closing after her husband Harold died 2 years ago. The two worked in restaurants together for more than 60 years, and they started to put their kids through school. They decided to open their own restaurant 31 years ago in Harold's grandparents' old home.
When I first opened this one, it was gray. I said, it's got to be hot pink.
And soon, this small pink restaurant will close its doors. But Jocelyn says it's been a good run because of her customers.
I just want to thank them, because with their help, my kids were educated.
Whether it's the color of the restaurant, the delicious crab meat, or the family feel, customers say it's one of a kind.
I don't know that we'll ever have another restaurateur like her.
Jocelyn says she plans on closing in December or early January. Then she says she'll do some catering. Christina?
What a sweet story. Thanks, Hannah. Wings Performing Arts Center hosted their annual Rubber Chicken Improv Festival today. 5 teams from all over the coast competed for the coveted Rubber Chicken Trophy. They participated in several rounds. Some of them involved props. Each team began with a creative introduction. The competition was judged by theater professionals. One of the hostesses was Sarah Grammer, who was a senior in high school. She has seen the festival's attendance grow since its beginning in 2005.
Well, we started this festival in 2005 after Hurricane Katrina when everybody just needed a laugh. We all just needed something lighthearted and fun since we were so downtrodden.
There was no registration fee for the competition, but donations were taken up for the Wings Performing Arts program. An educator from Pass Christian will be honored in Washington, D.C. next week as one of the best school principals in the country. Over Joe Nelson was named one of 3 finalists in the MetLife NASSP Middle School Principal of the Year Award. He was the first finalist ever nominated from Mississippi. Assignment education reporter Trang Pham tonight.
How we doing, guys?
For Pass Christian Middle School Principal Joe Nelson, every child deserves a chance to succeed.
They are our future doctors, our future lawyers, our future taxpayers. I think here in education, our jobs are the most important jobs in the United States.
Nelson should know.
Ladies, everything going okay?
He comes from a family of educators.
My mother was a third-grade teacher. My father taught high school and taught college, community college, for about 41 years. Actually, I said this is something that I never wanted to do, but I ended up doing it, and I fell in love with doing it.
Nelson started his career as a technology teacher at Biloxi High School. He never dreamed that 21 years later, he would be named the top middle school principal in Mississippi and among the best of the best in the nation.
And so it was an honor for me to know that I was the first ever nominated in the top 3 in the history of Mississippi. Quite an honor.
Nelson was chosen for his ability to inspire teachers.
If you look at A, it's reading language arts.
Under his leadership, Pass Middle School has achieved level 5 status and a star rating year after year. His student scores remain consistently high even through the devastation of Hurricane Katrina.
I was shocked and proud of him, and because he's such a great principal, and what he does for the school is amazing because he's made me enjoy school so much.
He's a hard worker. He's here, I mean, before probably 6:30, after 6:30, so I was not surprised because he deserves it, and he works hard for it, and I'm very proud of him to be recognized for that.
Nelson found out this week he did not win the national award.
I was not disappointed. It was still an honor to be in the top 3 in the United States. You know, it's over 25,000 middle schools in the United States. To be in the top 3 of all of that, you know, it's just outstanding.
Nelson says being a finalist has given him the opportunity to tell the rest of the country about Mississippi schools.
We're not last, and we have some great schools here, and those great schools are compared with other great schools in the United States. And so we want to get those stories out.
And he will get to share all the academic successes with other great principals when he goes to D.C. on September 17th. In Pass Christiane, Trang Pham Bui, WLOX News.
For being a finalist, Nelson will receive an award and a $1,500 education grant. By the way, the grand prize winner is from Hawaii. Still to come, the president is facing an uphill battle to get support from Congress and the public for a U.S. military strike in Syria. We'll have the latest. And 13 children are injured at a fair when a carnival ride suddenly loses power. WLX News Weekend, we'll be right back.
Sponsored in high definition exclusively by Gardner Law Firm, the lawyer to call for bankruptcy and debt counseling.
It's a full court press from the White House as President Obama works to convince lawmakers and a war-weary American public that the Assad regime must be punished for launching chemical weapons on its own people. That campaign is expected to heat up over the next few days, and this congressional vote likely the most critical of the Obama administration since health care. Deidre Bryant has details.
It continues to be an uphill slog for President Obama, rallying support for military strikes against Syrian President Bashar al-Assad, both on Capitol Hill and among an increasingly skeptical public. This morning, out making the case, White House Chief of Staff Dennis McDonough telling ABC's George Stephanopoulos that not a single member of Congress has rebutted the intelligence.
Everybody agrees that on August 21st, Assad used chemical weapons against his own people. So the question for Congress this week is a very simple one. Should there be consequences for his having used gases, chemical weapons to kill more than 1,000 of his own people, including more than 400 children?
A rallying point for the administration. Overnight, the release of 13 videos shown to senators in a classified briefing last week containing images so gruesome and heartbreaking they're difficult to watch.
Those videos make it clear to people that these are real human beings, real children, parents being affected in ways that are unacceptable to anybody, anywhere, by any standards. And that it is the United States of America that has always stood with others to say we will not allow this. This is not our values.
President Obama wants Congress to back him, but as of today, he would lose that vote, and that could undermine both his agenda going forward and his standing on the world stage. To drum up support, he'll sit down with network news anchors for interviews tomorrow. Then on Tuesday, a primetime address aimed at persuading the American public. Deirdre Bryant, ABC News, New York.
Thousands of people burst into cheers in Tokyo as the Japanese capital was awarded the right to host the 2020 Olympic Games today. Today, the International Olympic Committee announced that the Japanese city had beaten Istanbul out to host those games. Tokyo will be the first Asian city to host the Olympics twice. The city was making its second straight bid after losing the 2016 race that went to Rio de Janeiro. Back in the U.S., 13 children were hurt today on a swing ride at a festival in Connecticut. Police say it appears the ride lost power and came to a sudden halt. Most of the injuries were minor. Those children were treated at the scene and released. At least 2 children appeared to be seriously injured. They were transferred to area hospitals. Officials are investigating what happened. The New Orleans Saints gave the fans quite a show at the Superdome earlier today. We'll show the full highlights of that spectacular game with the Atlanta Falcons. That's coming up in sports.
Of at Texas, at Alabama, and at Auburn. That should be very challenging. And a little bit later, I'll go over that Southern Miss and Nebraska game, if you want to call it that.
Looking forward to it. Thank you, Tyler. Stick around. Joel's got the latest on the tropics when WLOX News Weekend continues.
Summer 70 and 60%. That's not too bad at all.
Not bad at all.
Not at all.
Thanks, Joel. Later on the news at 10, we'll introduce you to a man with an unusual job battling Mother Nature to protect our troops overseas. And coming up after the break.
An update on the $570 million Port of Gulfport restoration coming up next on Sunday Night Extra.
A Wiggins man says he has a whole new appreciation for his job and his country after he volunteered to work in Afghanistan for 4 months this summer. He was tasked with protecting soldiers and civilians at Bagram Airfield in Afghanistan. And he wasn't fighting Taliban. Instead, he was protecting them against another threat, wildlife.
I never served in the military, but it was my chance to help, the way I looked at it.
Scott Alls has worked in the wildlife industry all his life. As a wildlife biologist for the USDA, part of his job is dealing with nuisance wildlife calls.
Ospreys are bad to nest on those towers, and once they nest on the towers, they can cause them to short out and do damage.
When he learned the USDA was working with the Air Force in the bird airstrike program, he says he got a golden opportunity to volunteer at Bagram Airfield in Afghanistan, minimizing the risk of human health and safety by chasing away thousands of nuisance birds.
We use pyrotechnics to frighten them away. Typically when the aircraft is coming, they're not able to judge the speed of the aircraft. Or a lot of times the aircraft will be below them, but they dive. Their first instinct is to dive, and they'll dive into the plane.
Once they hit the plane or get lodged in the engine, Alls says they cause thousands of dollars worth of damage, stall cargo from getting to ground troops, or cause a plane crash like the one that happened in the Hudson River.
The most dangerous point in a plane's trip is a takeoff, and that's when most bird strikes occur is on takeoff.
During his time in the airfield, Alls witnessed the 747 cargo plane crash that killed 7 Americans. When Taliban threats were high, he was told to wear body armor. The constant stress of Alls being in that environment was worth it. After dispersing an estimated 76,000 nuisance birds from the Bagram Airfield, Alls says he's proud to say he helped save soldiers and civilians' lives by clearing the airspace. Depending on the bird, Alls says it takes 5 to 10 minutes to chase them off. He also says that Bagram Airfield had one of the most cases of bird strikes. Coming up, after years of declining birth rates in America, things may be turning around. We'll explain when WLOX News Weekend continues. For years, the country's birth rate has been dropping, and today births are at an all-time low. But could this trend be reversing? Dr. Timothy Johnson takes a look.
America's birth rate has been dropping, steadily inching down every year since 2007. This Medical Minute, I'm Dr. Timothy Johnson.
Let's turn things back over to weather. Of course, Joel is still keeping an eye on that system in the tropics. And Joel, you know, it's September. We're in hurricane season. We've been in hurricane season, but it's been pretty quiet.
Yeah, you're right about that. It really has been quiet.
I'm not complaining.
No, I'm not either. Yeah, it really has been very quiet. We are right now, obviously it's the 8th of September. The peak of hurricane season is right around the 10th of September. So we're right here in the middle of hurricane season, and things, like Christina said, they have been quiet right now. We haven't really got a whole lot out there, but the latest developing hurricane at this point in history, the record is September 11th.
New York City police have put the brakes on an alleged speed demon after his dash cam video went viral. The suspect claims to have broken the speed record for doing a lap around Manhattan. Jeannie Moose takes a look.
He called himself Afroduck, but instead of swimming around Manhattan's perimeter, Jeannie Moose, CNN, New York.
That's all for the news at 10. Thanks for joining us.